Alright, we are on to Lightning for our Gunslinger in the Abyss set review. So, Lightning, not in the best of places. I don't think it's that far off. I've played a lot of Mono Lightning in the last couple of sets, and there are some very good cards in Lightning. Let's see. I'm not sure what I want Lightning to really get. Like I said, there are good cards in Lightning and good things happening there. It just feels like the power level is below water. Excuse me, especially as bringing. First up, we have Aphmau. 2 cost 3k, Puppet Master from Cat 11. Action ability, put her into the break zone, choose a forward opponent controls, dull it, and draw a card. And then for 2 lightning and 1 generic, you can remove her from the break zone from the game, choose a forward, dull it. You can only use it if she's in the break zone. So I think this card actually is sleeper very good. A lot of people don't really. I'm kind of reminded of this old quote from a Steve D video back in the day where he was talking about the tier like 1 like 0.5 meta with chocobos and kind of this hypothetical question that a new player asked him, and the new player said, but what cards do you discard to pay for, like, what bad cards do you put in your deck to pay for other cards? He said, well, you shouldn't be putting bad cards in your deck. You should pitch good cards to play other good cards and just play the right good card for the situation. And he said that Chocobo was weird and that it disregarded that. Aphmau is kind of weird because she's a card that you can discard, and for no cost, like you don't have to do anything to get this. You kind of also get to draw this 1 CP summon that dulls a forward. And don't get me wrong, that's not a good summon. You know, you for 1 CP you can dull freeze a forward or so many other things. You know, draw a card. But like that's not a bad effect. Like once for 3 CP push lethal and you have this like little trigger in the break zone until the end of the game, she's difficult to interact with. And Lightning has started taking on this kind of self-mill identity as well, and this is action from the break zone, almost like if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player, like a Necrogardna or an Electromagnetic Turtle. But like instead of like Necrogardna, she can be used proactively. And like the action ability on field, like she is a 0 cost summon that dulls a forward and draws a card. Like basically, or I guess like cycles. She cycles a card basically. It's not 0 cost, but like that's not bad. Like there's a lot of value in that. It makes her basically always get able to get her value. I can't be low on this card honestly for a common. I think the deck space is going to be an issue, but this is a card like if there is a mono lightning deck, you could just run a couple copies of this and then you just kind of get access to this bonus effect. Think of like all the really strong flashback spells in Magic and how strong those have been over the years, or all of the graveyard effects in Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like Orchist or all these other things. This is like the first time they've really experimented with this, other than Undead Princess, I want to say, in like Opus 19. And I think that's a card that might actually be underplayed just for like its ability to keep Earth Forwards alive through Amaterasu. Keep an eye on this one. I really think that there might be something here with this card, and people just don't realize it. Angeal, this is a soldier, cost 7 from DFF Cat 7 with 9,000 power. Enters the field, choose 2 job soldiers in your break zone, add them to your hand, and then you play a soldier of 4 or less from your hand onto the field. So I did a little bit of an evaluation on this when it was spoiled because it kind of was an Oceania spoiler, and one of my testing partners was given it for winning the Materia Cup. I think this card is very strong and really interesting. Some of the big issues that are getting soldiers, Angeal kind of fixes. But Angeal also causes other problems. Namely, soldiers last set I thought was best as Fire, Ice, Earth. But Angeal isn't just a lightning card. He's a lightning card that needs more lightning to feed his effect. However, this is like a really strong effect. Now, granted, there's not a lot of soldiers I want to play on my opponent's turn that often. The only one that really has an entry effect that I can think of is Sephiroth, which is a discard effect. But you also do have the ability to like fizzle removal with Matt, or like back attack in a cloud on your opponent's turn, so like you can kind of try to dodge some removal. I can't be low on this card. I just don't know what the soldier deck looks like that implements enough lightning cards to make Angeal work. It doesn't stop you from playing backup, so Restrictor is playable off of this. It's just a really solid card. It does have the issue of, like, this is going to hurt when it gets Amaterasu, but it even kind of picks up two soldiers. Like, you can pick up a lightning soldier and the soldier you want to play, and then just play it immediately, and it becomes kind of like 7 cost, play 2 soldiers, and then have this, like, repeatable action ability. Really strong card. Would not be surprised to see soldiers be very good now. And they were good last set, to be quite honest. Hara proved that very early in the set, even though the deck didn't really catch on. Elena, love this full art. Let me get the card browser window in a good spot. There we go. So Elena's a 4-cost member of the Turks. Cat 7 with 7,000 power. Cost required to casters reduced by 2 for each job member of the Turks you control. Notable text there that is not there. This can become free. She has haste, and then on damage 3, when she's dealt damage by a forward, you deal to the forward 5,000 damage. So Turks are in a very interesting spot, because I do think we have 5 good Turk cards at this point. Like, objectively. I think way more than enough Turks. Like, I think Sung is crazy. Elena was a card that did not have a good card name and now has one. I think the Cisne Hero from Opus 22 is a card that, like, is just about to break the game at some point. Like, it just does so much damage so quickly and so easily. Rude from last set was great. There's multiple Renos that are great cards. The big... And, like, this is a good card. The ability to play a free forward with haste is solid. Like, it's exactly what the deck wants to do. It procs your Cisne. It's another name for Sung, so Sung can pick up something. And then Sung can play a different Turk from your hand. And then you play Elena for free, and then Elena gets to punch in, and then that procs the Cisne. And it seems like this really synergistic and powerful core, but it's competing in this aggro space in a way that, like, I don't think it ever wins the aggro game over Knights. Like, and if it's not doing the aggro game better than Knights, you could play something else probably. So I like this card. I think it's cute. You could play Turk backups. Like, if you got like a Cisne and a Reno backup in play, you could play Elena for free as a free haste forward, which is just decent. The full art of this card looks incredible, by the way. I don't think this is the piece that Turks were missing. It's a good card. I just don't know how many more names Turks have to make the deck actually work. But I will be messing with this a bit. Vivian! So this is another piece for the priming deck. So she is a 5-cost backup, Cat 16 with Job Strategist. The priming cost of the characters you control can be paid with CP of any element, and when she enters the field, you choose a Cat 16 for your break zone, add it to your hand. And then when a character you control is priming, draw 1 card. So, by the classic rule of 3s, this card is powerful. I do have some fundamental qualms with this card. So that first ability, the priming cost can be paid with CP of any element. Great text. What's the problem with it? Well, it doesn't color fix your dominance. So you can't, like, you can't just ignore that, right? Because I think there is room for, even with Torgal existing, more copies of Torgal. Because making sure that you don't have to always search the Torgal off of an Emina or run 3 Torgals, like, that could be really powerful for a priming deck. But, like, Vivian doesn't do enough to do that. So I don't really know what that text is doing on the card. When Vivian enters the field, choose a Cat 16 forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. That's great. Fundamentally, though, the issue with that is that Vivian still is kind of a 3 CP backup. And then when a character you control is priming, you draw 1 card. Again, this is, like, solid, but I would question how often you're going to realistically get that text to go off in a game. So, like, let's say we're playing a Fire Lightning deck or a Fire Ice deck, and you only have the 2 dominants. You have Sidolphus, and you have either Jill or Clive. You're priming twice in a game, 3 times in a game. That's a pretty big tempo loss off of Vivian, honestly. Like, that's not insignificant, even if, she becomes, the first one makes her a 1 cost backup, and the second one makes her go, net positive. There's a lot of backups these days that are going positive way faster than that. So then you say, well, I'm going to run my deck, and I'm going to make it a priming deck. And I'm going to run Dion and Bahamut, and I'm going to run Clive and Jill and Joshua for the new Phoenix, and I'm going to run Sidolphus because I'm in Lightning. And here's the problem with that. I'm going to count those down, and I'm going to say that I am playing exactly 3-3 for all of them because I don't think any dominant functions at less than 3-3, except for Joshua. But I'll get to that later. I'm going to just say, for the sake of argument, you're running 3-3 of all of these. Dion, Clive, Joshua, Jill, Sidolphus. That is 5 total forwards in the deck, not counting the icon pair. 5 forwards. Right? 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. That's 30 forwards with no summons, no interaction spells. Your Sidolphus doesn't have anything to do, so Sidolphus is a card that you have to actually run additional copies of lightning summons to search, or the card has no text. And so we run the 3 summons for Sidolphus. That's 33 cards. So that gives us 15 slots for backups, non-engine, and summons. And even with that, I'm running 5 forward names, and I'm using 30 slots of my deck. That would be, the greediest Siren, Chaos Arclists are on 5 forward names. With less conflict and less breaking issues than that. And this is running 3 of the light card in the deck. All these different element cards. If the Vivian and your Toriel get answered, you are dead into the sun because none of your forwards do anything. So I can't see that being a deck. The priming stuff is too... It takes too many cards to work. So I can't get behind this card. It feels so confused between the element it's in, what it's trying to do. I don't see it. I frankly struggle to see a world in which this priming deck that they have tried to make work is good. And especially I don't want to go Ice Lightning for it. Because I don't think the Lightning adds anything to it. I guess you get Gav and Vivian now. But, I would even consider if it was in Wind or something. Because then, you have Benedicta Garuda, which I think is, the best of the other dominant icon pairs. And not that, Sidolphus and Ramu are bad cards. They don't synergize with what the other ones are doing. I like that, Benedicta Garuda is at least, a relatively proactive thing. The deck also is going to struggle with the fact that, of those cards, Jill Shiva has a reactive play now, which is good. But Clive Ifrit is only defensive. Dion Bahamut is only defensive. Sidolphus is pretty much only defensive. There's only so much defense you need. You need to be doing proactive plays. Or you need to be a control deck, but you can't be a control deck and run 30 forward slots and no interaction. Pick a lane, Vivian. Vritra. So, Vritra is our first Lightning Legend. Cat, 14. Job the First Brood. 5 cost, 9k. So, Vritra and her sister have the same kind of first abilities, which is can never be chosen by summons. When Vritra enters the field, gains cannot be chosen by abilities till the end of your opponent's turn, which is very good protection. And then when a lightning forward you control attacks, you choose a forward opponent controls, you dull it, and deal it 7,000 damage. So I'm going to get the good out of the way with first. This synergizes really well with Root and Reno from last set. The protection is very solid. I wish that they would have templated it a little bit differently. Unfortunately, because that first ability is an auto, you can Amaterasu it if you need to be able to target with abilities. You can use Refia to spin it back to the deck on the stack of its own entry, and then you don't get it. You can Witch of the Fens kill it on entry, and it dies. There's a lot of ways that can go wrong, right? But the moment that resolves, Reacher's probably sticking around for a turn and a half. The second ability is good. It allows you to push for lethal, do damage. You know, it can function as a board wipe. I just am scared by the similarities to, I think, one of the worst Legends in recent memory for me, which is the Limit Break Edge, which I think is just unplayably bad. If I'm playing a mono lightning deck, I really don't even sleeve at the LB Edge anymore. Like, I run, like, 2 clouds. I'll probably run 1 lightning LB, 1 light lightning LB, a Luso, maybe a Nyx, a Gilgamesh, something like that. I really think Lightning has a really shallow LB pool as well, which doesn't help. But Vritra is a main deck version of a card that I think is not very good. It's a better version of that card, but also it doesn't have the LB in the corner, which is what makes Edge a card I would consider in the first place. So if I don't rate Edge highly, and I think Edge's effects aren't good enough in 2025 Final Fantasy, I can't give Vritra high marks. I can't see this card being good because it's a worse version of a different card. Because the LB text is the most powerful text in the entire game. So maybe I'm wrong on this. I wouldn't be surprised to see this like show up in a couple of decks and like have some results by the end. Because like, if it works, it is powerful. I just, it's so expensive for something that does not win you the game, and that you have to draw or search or invest resources into. So I love the art, love the concept of the card. I just wish it was better. X-Death, 5 cost Wizard, Cat 5. Enters the field, choose a 4 to 5 or less, break it with an EX burst. Might see some play in some kind of EX control-y decks. It's not like, for what it is, it's not unplayable. But let's be honest, X-Death is probably a name you want to play the forward on most of the time. And if you didn't, like, you can kind of get away with like Kujas and a lot of other cards before I think you would resort to this. But this card is, there could be a meta where this shows up. Odin. So this is the first Yuya Ishihara art that I think is not perfect. I don't know what it is, but the horse's head is kind of in the wrong spot. There's like the way it's like tilted, it looks like a cod piece, unfortunately. So it looks like Odin's just got this like horse-shaped cod piece way too high on his chest. I don't know. I think the art is fine otherwise. It is like this close to being amazing. It's just like the angle of the horse's head is a little bit off. So this is the Lightning Summon of the Cycle. 3 cost, Cat 9. During your turn, dull 2 Lightning forwards. Choose a 4 to 4 or less and break it, or choose an LB with 6 or less and break it. I like that the LB text is there. It kind of helps recontextualize LBs as, yeah, they're cheaper than their printed cost. We're going to like kind of compensate for that in Lightning's removal now. I think it's kind of neat. And I actually think Lightning is an element that does want a card like this. Now, sure, Lightning is also the element of haste, so that sucks a little bit. But I think that Lightning, alongside Earth, is kind of hampered by the fact that its Opus 19 Freecast summon wasn't very good in comparison to some of the others. It was a lot more conditional, couldn't be used in conjunction with other cards very well. This is just like kind of a less conditional version of that card. And I can see it seeing play for that. I think the name is a lot better as well. There's a lot of support for Odins and very little support for Ramos. So keep an eye on this one. I like the cost. Like, I don't mind paying 3 for a hard cast kill spell. on a 4 to 4 or less. I think that's actually like a pretty okay rate. And any summon that I can cast for free, I'm going to have to give a second look at because I really think that is strong text. Gav, 4-cost warrior from Cat 16, 8,000 power, EX burst, enter the field, search for a Cat 16 character, add it to your hand. If Vivian works, this is probably one of the reasons why you kind of get this forward EX burst searcher. I also just don't love the forward searchers for backups like this, though. Like, it's the wrong cost. Costing 4 is so much worse than costing 3. Like, the dream scenario for this, like, if you really wanted this to work, would be something like you go Aldo for Gav get Vivian, play the Vivian, and you're kind of off to the races, right? But now you're in this, like, awkward situation where, like, it just costs more. It gets Torgal as well, which could be good. Like, it's not a bad card, getting Clive. I just don't like... To me, the Fire Lightning element combination is so bad historically outside of exactly 13. And 13 doesn't want this guy. So, I have to think, like, Ice Lightning, maybe? Then you have, like, Torgal access or Jill. But it's not, like, exciting. It's just fine. Gilgamesh, 3-cost backup, Job Praetorian. Pick the Logic and 5 and enters the field. Choose a forward. Deal it 3k for each CP of a different element used to pay. You paid to cast it. Completely unplayable. Oh my goodness, this card is bad. And like, I don't know what they're thinking with it other than draft common to be playable. But like even in draft, this is a pretty late pick, I imagine. Just bad. Xiphos, this is the lightning monster of the cycle. Becomes a forward 7,000 power. When it's blocked, all the forwards opponent controls lose 3,000 power to the end of the turn. And when it deals damage, you sack it, choose a forward of 4 or less, and break it. This thing is very difficult to block, which is really good. When it gets in, it kills something, which is great. Does a point of damage. Kind of reminds me almost like of a monster version of Cloud in a way. Like it's difficult to block. It's very cheap. It kills a thing. It's solid. I don't think it's the best of the cycle. I think that still probably goes to Cripshay or Behemoth. But like the AoE power reduction as well is very interesting probably for some decks too. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I think this one could be good. But it's not my favorite of the cycle for sure. Sleipnir. 2-cost forward, Job Knight from 16, 5,000 power. When it enters the field, you can reveal a dark card. If you do, you draw a card. When Dark Forward enters, it gains 3,000 power and haste. So first things first, thank goodness we're past Turbo Chaos, because this probably would have gone in the deck. Clearly it's intended to pair with Barnabas. I think that's a decent home for it. Barnabas kind of wants to be Lightning anyway to try to find the Behemoths, which I think are like... If Barnabas Odin is ever good, it's because you can just do like Barnabas, Prime, Odin, Behemoth, 4 damage. And Sleipnir kind of puts you at 5, so like technically an OTK is Barnabas, Sleipnir, Behemoth, another, and then a special for Barnabas. It's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts. But I don't hate that as like a concept, right? And like rounding up the damage on that is good. Becomes quite big. And a free forward is not bad. So there's a world where this has some amount of play. I don't think it goes in Chaos Arc. That's another deck that people might consider because it's like you're on 6 dark cards and we can help you kind of curve out in like the Earth Lightning Chaos Arc deck. But my issue with that is that Earth Lightning Chaos Arc does not want any of the text on this card. It doesn't want a cheap forward that just draws a card from having a dark card in hand on a forward. If it was a backup, maybe. And the haste text is completely irrelevant in the deck. So, yeah, if Barnabas Odin is ever good, this guy might be better. But until then, I'm going to kind of think he's not great. So here is Sarah. What a card this is. She's a forward with Jobless Sea from Cat 13. When she enters the field or deals damage to your opponent, you choose a forward of 4 or less and break it. If you control 2 or more Cat 13 forwards, if you control two or more. If you have 3 or more, there's a 0 cost action ability to do your opponent a point of damage, only during your turn and only once per turn. So this card's crazy. Very strong. Does kind of everything you want. This is maybe the best unconditional burn that's ever been printed. Happens during your turn. 0 cost action ability on a card that you want to be playing anyway. This is like so broken to play off of the Legend Lightning we'll talk about in a little bit. Because in that deck, when you do that, Lightning Blazer, if you have 3 Cat 13 forwards, you break a forward, then you can use the action ability, which deals a point of damage, which for some reason feeds that first ability. So you break a forward. And then, probably by this point, you've killed 2 things of 4 OS. What's your opponent blocking with at that point? Hit him in the face. Sarah triggers again because you killed another thing. You just had a board wipe and did your opponent 3 points of damage. Like, that's absurd, right? Now, the downside, she can't get a forward of 5 or less, or 5 or more. And there is not a clean way of doing that for her. So there's the potential for this card to kind of get stonewalled in that regard. But, man, it is some wild text they put on this girl. So she's going to be... She's good. I'm curious to see where the Cat 13 deck ends up. But if it is good, I think Sarah is a huge reason why. Ninja, stop reprinting these. Bayergot, this is our first of the Lightning 12 guys. 3 cost, 7k, Cat 14. Enter the field, reveal the top 5 of your deck, add a 12, and then 1 in Dull, choose a forward, dull it. You're going to run this guy at 3 because you really need to find your Limlins. And I think that like Cloud is one of the best multi-element wind X cards. So like Lightning is actually an element that like the 12 kind of wants, which is ironic because there's no Lightning backup in the 12. I do wish the action ability was just dull, choose a forward, dull it. I don't think he needed the extra 1 cost there. But it's not bad text. He can kind of block without blocking. He can help you push for lethal, and he's a good consistency tool. So definitely a 3 of in the 12 decks. Probably, I mean, obviously won't see any play anywhere else. So does what he needs to do, not anything extra. How good he is going to completely depend on how good the 12 is as a deck. Freya! Okay, so this is a 4-cost Dragoon with haste, 8,000 power. When she attacks, choose a forward opponent controls, deal it 2,000 damage for each Dragoon or card named Dragoon you control. Special Dragon's Crest, choose a forward, deal 2k for each job Dragoon or card named Dragoon you break zone. So it's kind of like a side grade to the old Opus 3 Freya that like Dragoon decks still kind of are built around. One nice thing is prior to this there were only 3 Freyas in the entire game. So even if you maxed out on copies of Freya, you just didn't have a choice at a better one. This is another Lightning one. Previously they were running a Water Freya that just didn't have text other than card name Freya and Job Dragoon. So this is better. That said, I don't think it's doing anything better than the old Freya was, right? I mean, sure, it doesn't need to have the special to kill things, and it's a bigger body, and all of that. But when I think of like what Dragoons are missing, I will just straight up say Freya is not the thing that I'm having issues with. I do wonder if there's a world where Dragoons as an engine but not a deck is viable. Like you play all the Dragoon backups, and that enables you to play Kane LB, which is a card that I think is really good. And I think that the Lightning LB choices are not very good, so I don't mind doing that. Yeah, it's... If you did that, then like maybe you can get, 4 Dragoon backups, you attack with Freya, and this becomes a haste 4-cost kill a thing, which is a Merald. And the special's pretty decent. Do I think that that's great? Not really. Maybe with like Kane LB, you can go like through, 2 Dragoon backups that you would need then, and then you go Freya, and then you go Kane LB, and you pick up the best card in your break zone, and then Freya has 4 Dragoons and kills something. There could be something there with that. I think it's a good card. It just doesn't fix any of the inherent issues that are keeping Dragoons out of tiered meta status right now. Mini Fighter, 2 cost, backup, standard unit, FFTS. This is from the cycle of like the pitch ones. So you discard, choose a forward and dull it. If you discarded an ice card, you also get to freeze it. This is the best of them. It's actually, like, if you're drafting the set, this is like the only backup in the set to put any kind of emphasis on other than like Limlin. Just because it's so good. I don't know why this one feels so much better than like the other ones, but like choosing a forward and dulling it I think is better than the text on a lot of the other ones. And then like dull freezing the forward for dull, the cost is pretty solid. I don't expect us to see any actual like consideration even in like ice lightning decks. Those decks are running like basically nothing but engine backups at this point. And even if they weren't, usually you don't want to discard an ice card just for a dull freeze. So like you have so much access to dull freeze anyway. But for limited, this guy is actually really good. Rolger, so 8 costs from the 12, 9,000 power. He's reduced by 1 for each job of the 12 you control. He's got haste, and when he enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls and break it. So one of the big things about the 12 that this guy came out, people were like, like he's so expensive, and like you have to get kind of set up to do things. And I just see this guy as an improvement on Merrill in every way. And Merrill was like one of the big pieces of Soiree that made that deck like really good. So breaking it down, he costs more than Merrill if you don't have 4 Job of the 12 in play. But he does always have all of his techs. Like you can pay 6 for this guy, still kill a guy and get a hasty forward out of it. Like that's a totally, I mean it's a bad rate, but like, I'll pay that. I will pay 6 to kill something sometimes when it comes with a hasted forward next to it. And it only gets better from there. And one of the big things that I mentioned when I was talking about Limlin, or maybe it was even in the Fire set review when I was talking about like Azemia, is the 12 has, it's all cat 14 forwards with haste, which means this guy pairs so well with Hien. So let's say you have 5 backups that are all job to 12. You can go dull 1, pitch a card, play Rolger, dull the other 4, play the Hien, Rolger killed something, attack with the Rolger, attack with the Hien, activate the Rolger and the Hien, attack with Rolger, attack Hien. It's 4 damage out of nowhere. You killed a forward. Maybe you had the Azemia as well. You get to, like, if you have Azemia, Rolger, Hien, you can go from no forwards on the field to 6 damage. There are not other decks in the game that do that consistently in the way that this deck does. So I think there's a lot going for this card. I think this is a big reason to actually consider the 12, to be quite honest. Lightning. This is our legend that breaks the traditional full art rules hilariously. They just decided they wanted to make Lightning a full art for some reason. 3 cost, forward with haste, job Ravager Lassie, 6,000 power. If Lightning forming a party deals damage to your opponent, becomes 2 instead. When she attacks, you get to play a cat 13 forward, a 6 or less from your hand onto the field. Forming a party with Lightning and attacking, at the end of the turn, return it to its owner's hand. So this is a really unique card, and I think it's one that reads so crazy. You play this for 3, you cheat anything into play, you get its entry effect, you do your opponent 2 points of damage, and then the card goes back into your hand and it's protected and safe there. Now, the downside is I'm not sure how good this deck will end up actually being. Because this reads so strong, right? You can go turn 1. You can go, the old Hope. Go get this Lightning. Play a Sarah. Sarah breaks a forward. Sarah uses her action ability. Does a point of damage. Party attack hits. They take another point of damage. They've dealt 3 damage. They're dead next turn on field. 13 didn't have an issue with that before. That was normal for 13. 13's been doing that since the deck was printed in Opus 19. It does not care about how fast it kills things. And this isn't doing anything different. And in fact, I would argue it's doing it worse in some ways. Because one of the big advantages of the old 13 deck was, sure, you're running 3 light forwards, but you could hold the lightning in hand until it was time. And you could, and basically your opponent just has to always play whack-a-mole with these 13 forwards, because if any of them live, you play lightning, and then all of your forwards are too big to block, and they do a bunch of damage, you draw a bunch of cards, you do all this burn damage, and they just die into the sun. And this lightning doesn't do that. Like, she has to sit on field after she attacks, because she doesn't bounce herself. Which means that, like, what does this deck do? Like, it probably has to play aggressive, because I don't think, you're doing so much damage so quickly, like, that has to be the best thing you can do with it. But, I mean, I remember I saw on Japanese Twitter, there was just an image of a guy sitting with an Ifrit, and, he's holding a 13 grip of cards and just looking at the Ifrit and going, I lose the game. There's nothing I can do. So, what are we doing there, then? Like, why are we playing this overplaying Knights, which doesn't have the same issues with that, which plays huge bodies to the field, does so much damage, and still kills from out of nowhere, and attacks the hand, attacks all the resources in a way that this deck doesn't? And I don't know. I really don't. And I think that's the answer that 13 pilots are going to have to solve, is what does this deck do better now than it did before? Now, one thing I do think is kind of underrated about Lightning is I don't think you have to play that much 13 to make her playable, right? Let's say that you play the old Caius, or maybe the new Snow, right? All Lightning then becomes is this 2-card combo for a haste forward that does 2 damage, and either plays a 3-cost character for free off of Caius, which is a good effect, or, like, I draw, you discard off of Snow. Like, that's a good card at that point. Now, and notably, you don't need to be in Fire Lightning for that. You can be in Water Lightning. And maybe the water card, you have a Larsa that helps you find your Caius, and you have Lumina that helps search both, and you can kind of run it as this, like, Water Lightning engine. I think that could be really strong. Is it the best thing you can be doing in the elements? Maybe not, but for 6 slots, I don't know. I think people might be underestimating just the sheer potential of what this card represents off of that. Dragoon, this is a new standard unit backup. Enters the field, choose a standard unit, have 3 or less in your break zone, add it to your hand. If you have 3 or more Dragoons, play it to the field instead. So clearly meant to be a Dragoon card. It's solid for what it is. The big problem is going to just be, like, what standard unit do you actually want to play? The most recent Dragoon is not bad. 3 cost, but, like, even without that, like, you'll play this in a Dragoon deck because it, like, picks up it's a 2-cost Dragoon backup that maybe just cheats the Dragoon into play instead. So it's fine, but it's not like a it's not broken or wild or anything. Up next, we got Liud, Job, Eagle, and Warrior. 2 cost 5k. When a Job Warrior or Card Name Warrior you control attacks, choose a forward your opponent controls and dull it. And on damage 3, Liud gets haste. So there is a bit of weird support for Lightning Warriors. You have the Furians, there's a couple of them that are Job Warrior and in Lightning. There's the Ramza that randomly is a Knight and a Warrior. Like the Lightning Crystal one is. And notably, you can play this off of Tyvis without putting any other Lightning cards in your deck. And now all of a sudden, your Mono Fire deck can play Cloud LB, which is really good. Or you can have this kind of finisher payload for your deck, which is kind of neat. I don't think that's enough to really make room, but, like, in those Mono Fire Tyvis decks that I think might show up this set because of Naji and Elwyn, I think you could do worse than 1 copy of this guy. I'm going to be quite honest. So, yeah, he's not amazing, but he could be worse than he is. I'll save that for later when we get to LBs. That is it for Lightning. I don't think it's I think it's an interesting set of cards. Again, Lightning LB or the Lightning has a lot of potential moving forward. I think they got some of the best of the 12s. I think the Odin here is really good. I'm just not a fan of like Veritra, Vivian, a lot of other cards. So that's it for Lightning. Stay tuned. We'll talk about Water and LB in the near future. Thanks for watching.